Look, I am the type of horror fan who goes digging through the crates for horror movies, okay? Literally and, well, figuratively. One thing I am always searching for are black horror movies. So if you need some black horror recs, I got you covered. Leaving off the black horror movies that I am sure everyone knows and have seen at this point, movies like Get Out, Ma, Tales from the Hood, The Sweet Blood of Jesus, Candyman, The People Under the Stairs, and of course Demon Knight, which I covered recently on my horror series KillerCon. I am here to give you a list of black horror movies that you might have missed and need to see, because one thing, if you are like me, it's like, where we at in the horror space? I'll tell you where we at. We are here in this list of movies that I am about to give you in this video. So let's get right into all things black horror movies that you might have missed and need to see. Solemn, released in 2022. This is an African action horror thriller. We follow a group of mercenaries who, while trying to escape, end up stranded and taking refuge in a hidden village. But something supernatural waits there for them. This is currently streaming on AMC Plus and also available to rent on Prime. Look, I was extremely impressed by this movie. First of all, I love a premise where badass people or a badass person ends up facing something that they need to fear, and that the people around them who are fearing them need to kind of fear more than them. Did that make any sense? I also recently talked on my channel about how we are really lacking in the action horror genre. I think it is just such a perfect mashup. And what do I say a nauseating amount of times on this channel? I love a isolated location fighting for your life. Now, I will say this movie has two tones, kind of in the vein of From Dusk Till Dawn, just in how that movie starts as this crime story and then turns into a vampire story. Solemn starts as one story, then the horror story, like horror element, comes in. And even though this is pretty great from top to bottom, child, I would have been happy with just a mercenary story, like even without the horror. But because even before the horror, there are such good moments of tension and suspense, and that story just plays so well. But baby, we are here for some horror, and that works really well here too. The acting from the entire cast is top notch. The pacing and momentum works really well here. I truly don't have many complaints about this one. The Harbinger, released in 2022. This is a horror movie about a black girl who leaves quarantine to visit with and help an old college friend who is currently being stalked by someone in her nightmares. And this is currently free on Tubi and also available to rent on Amazon Prime. Now, I think I talked about this movie in my 2022 yearly movie wrap up, but we're gonna revisit it here because I don't hear nobody talk about this movie. I absolutely hated all of the Rona quarantine horror we got around this time, as well as all of the TV shows that included it. Now, this is just my personal thing. It just irks me, and it is very prevalent here in The Harbinger. But outside of that, this is a pretty enjoyable, if not teetering on generic horror watch. Now, don't let the fact that it's a pretty run-of-the-mill standard horror fare here distract you. I do think they do really well, especially the performances, and even with the whole lore of the man who stalks the friend's nightmares. The weakest part of the story, in my humble opinion, outside of adding the whole quarantine element, is the monster design. I like how they play with the dream sequences and intertwine certain elements. Since we are dealing with the plot centered on nightmares, look, there isn't anything groundbreaking here. There isn't anything we haven't seen before in horror, but I really enjoyed this. I will also say you could end up mixed on the ending. I can see it being the type of ending that people either really love or really hate. The Harbinger isn't the most action-packed horror movie, but please do not confuse that with boring. Y'all know I am quick to D and F, do not finish, and I was intrigued all the way through. Now, they might not have wrapped things up in a way that was as interesting as I hoped, but I still enjoyed this one overall. Lockdown Tower from 2023. This is a French drama fantasy horror film about a group of people who end up trapped inside of their apartment building by this supernatural black Fog. Currently streaming on AMC Plus. I was really intrigued by the whole black fog that was surrounding the apartment building. I was really interested in like that whole element and figuring out that mystery. But I will say a bulk of the characters got on my last goddamn nerves and made this a pretty frustrating watch for me. Y'all know I don't do well with annoying ass characters. Like, I need likable characters, and I mean likable villainous characters, unlikable characters, that's fine, but I mean like characters that I can just enjoy as a part of the story. I also don't do well with racism and all that racial stuff in my movies. For me, movies is escapism, and I don't want to see that. We are stuck in this building and the white people decide they need to band together, and that causes a trickle effect of all the blacks stay with the blacks and all the whites stay with the whites and so forth and so forth. I really feel like this was unnecessary and it really doesn't add anything to the story, but I typically feel like that's unnecessary in these movies in general. There are so many conflicts that can arise from a scenario like this. I feel like going straight to segregating everyone based on race, and it starts off pretty much when things kick off, we just all segregate. I just feel like it was really lazy, a really lazy way to add conflict. We are trapped. Resources are slim. We don't know what the hell is outside or how to escape this building or how the heck, to escape what is trapping us here. We don't understand the mystery of this fog. All of that is interesting and causes issues in and of itself. This was a frustrating watch for me, and I think it takes a bit of time to kind of get going. I don't think the horror is as effective as it could be. With a situation like this, I just feel like it should have been a little more creepy and eerie. It felt a little more isolating, but I do think it is worth the watch. This is one of those movies where I end up frustrated that it doesn't meet like its full potential. There was also frustration because of some rather glaring logic issues, but please do not confuse my criticisms. The movie doesn't suck. It's good. Well, average, enjoyable enough way to kill time. But I will also say that even though the movie stalls and drags in parts, I think it is intriguing enough to keep your attention and keep you hooked to want to know how it ends. I think just that central mystery of the black fog is enough. Like, you want answers, but I feel like the ending will infuriate you. And trigger warning, if you're sensitive and don't like these kinds of things, you will see animals being harmed and killed in this movie. Overlord from 2018, action horror sci-fi. We follow a small group of U.S. soldiers tasked with destroying a German radio tower that is in an old church. However, they discover Nazi experiments that are turning the locals into zombies. Overlord is available to rent on Prime, and baby, it is worth the money. Now, I have talked about this on my channel at least twice. I think I added it to my Halloween video from last year. And some other times I think I've talked about this on my channel, but I never hear anyone talk about this motherfucking movie, and I don't understand why this is not the biggest thing in the world. It does not get the attention and recognition that it deserves. So any chance I get to talk about Overlord, I will. Action-packed from top to bottom. Great characters. Even the villainous characters are like ones you will love. Well, at least if you like, bad guys like I do. But that's what I mean by likable characters. I don't mean like they're literally likable, but like they're an enjoyable part of everything that makes the movie. And I love villainous characters. This is also the movie for you if you enjoy body horror. It is top notch. We get some great gore, but it is not only a satisfying bloodbath, it is a good story and great movie. This is another movie that will fill that void of action horror mashup that, if you're like me, you have been missing. I know a lot of people are over zombies and that entire subgenres, but trust me, do not be turned off by that if you are one of those people. This is not your average zombies. Like, Overlord is not your average zombie movie. This is such a fun and satisfying watch. Great effects, really exciting action with tense moments, and really effective, menacing lead villain. Isolation from 2005. This is a sci-fi horror movie about a group of people who become unwilling participants in an experiment gone wrong on an isolated Irish farm. Currently streaming on Tubi, Prime, Crackle, Freevee. Baby, you got a lot of options to watch this one. Isolation is one of those movies that left me really blown away. I love an isolated location where people fighting for their motherfucking life. This one gives a bleak, gray, downtrodden feeling. really effective atmosphere. I found Isolation to be pretty visceral and creepy, very gruesome in moments. I enjoyed the gore here, but I think the highlight for me is the story. Everything else is just a cherry on top, and I feel like this is the kind of movie that isn't necessarily my taste, and I would DNF because it's not action packed. This is the kind of movie that just makes my skin crawl. The location, the farm, everything we see, it just feels like I wouldn't want to touch anything. It also leads into like creature feature territory, and Isolation very much gives Alien, John Carpenter's The Thing vibes. Now don't expect the movie on that caliber. Like, it is a very well made movie, but it ain't those. But it's isolated. We have a small group and a creature, so it has the vibes of those two movies. There are animals harmed in this one as well. I was really affected, so trigger warning if you are sensitive to animals being harmed and killed. I thought this movie was paced really well, and I also enjoyed how it ended, even though it's foreshadowed, so I called the ending. I still like where they left things off at, and like I said, look, I said it's not action packed, but it's a good momentum, and it's a story and characters that will keep you intrigued. A Song from the Dark. This is a new 2024 release from a first-time African writer-director. A Song from the Dark is a horror mystery about a family who starts to become tormented by an evil spirit after the death of their father. Reluctantly, they hire a spirit hunter who begins to discover dark secrets. This is currently streaming for free on Prime. I am really excited that we got a black horror movie from an up-and-coming black filmmaker this year. I love a possession horror, even though I know a lot of people find that subgenre to be oversaturated and generic, just like the zombie subgenre, but I love both of those subgenres. But I will say this movie puts a different spin on it. This is not your typical like Catholic possession religious horror. Since this is an African filmmaker, African culture is embedded in this. We don't go to a priest to banish the spirit like other possession horror movies, because of course Africans, specifically Nigerian, in the movie, have their own traditions for these things. All of the actors did well. I thought everything looked good. Everybody looked good. It was well shot. But I have to be honest, I was pretty let down by this one. The pacing did not work for me. There's a certain character that irked my nerves. There's a moment where I was literally just like, baby, kill everybody. Kill everybody, let them die. And when certain things are revealed, you'll understand why I felt that way. Also, the effects were pretty mediocre. All of the horror felt really predictable and dated. The jump scares, things like you have a spirit pop out and like vomit. The character go look, nothing's there, it's suddenly gone, but then it like turn around and the spirit pops up. But you know what? I won't say too much, child, because you know people be hard on me. Don't talk bad about black movies. I'm gonna talk bad about any movie that I think isn't good. But even though I did not care for this movie, I wanted to add it to this video because, hey, this is a black horror movie that you might have missed. And we got a new release this year from an up-and-coming black writer-director that I have not heard anyone talk about. So I said, let me put this on this list because it fits. And it needs some attention. I also think you should support the film and give it a watch. I saw it all the way through, and I mean, it's free, so give it a try. And you know, I'd be quick to DNF, and I did not do that here. I genuinely did not want to just turn it off. I wanted to finish the film, so give it a try. Now, this next movie, I'm pretty sure I was the only person on planet Earth who saw this when it came out. Bitch ass from 2022. A horror movie about a gang initiation that ends up going wrong when they break into the wrong house, because the house ends up belonging to a serial killer that forces you to play deadly games. This is currently streaming on Paramount Plus and available to rent on Prime Video. Look, bitch ass, you should know from the title what you are getting here. This is a so bad it's good kind of movie. You have this Jigsaw, like black Jigsaw type character who forces people to play these deadly games, and the catch is you lose, you die. You win, you die. The movie tells us about the first black serial killer, bitch ass, who was bullied as a kid and called bitch ass by everyone in the neighborhood. The acting is pretty mediocre, and look, it's just not a good, like, well-made movie. I'm sorry, but there is a scene where the killer sneaks up on someone with loud footsteps, for example, and like the floor is creaking, but he was able to like sneak up. The movie is so damn unserious, especially the torture, like game playing scenes. But like I said, bitch ass is, see how many times I can say the title, bitch ass is so good, it's bad kind of watch. I do have a lot of fun with this movie. You have to just go into it knowing what to expect. And I mean, the title is bitch ass, what can you expect? And honestly, I applaud what they were able to do here, because the film had a budget of only $30,000. Tony Todd makes an appearance here. Look, the movie has a lot of problems, but it is a good time. And I actually kind of really liked it. The villainous like gang leader character. Black Box from 2020. This one is a Prime original. It is a sci-fi thriller about a man who, after losing his wife and memory in a car accident, undergoes an experimental treatment. As a Prime original, you can watch this free on Prime. Black Box is actually the movie that sparked my idea to do this video, because I recently mentioned this movie in one of, I think, my KillerCon episodes, and nobody knew what the hell I was talking about. Black folks in sci-fi is so rare. I need everyone to watch this gem. I am not sure why this has flown under the radar. I remember watching this when it came out and nobody was talking about it. We have a phenomenal cast here, including Felicia Rashad. Now, this might be more thriller, less horror, but there are horror elements, and I think Black Box deserves to be here on this list. This is not an action-packed movie. It is definitely character and story-driven, but do not mistake that for boring. I feel like, because I don't know, I guess I have to give that disclaimer, because if I hear that, I hear boring, but I do not mean boring. Black Box is definitely like psychological thriller territory. I love how the story unfolds. I love following these characters. Now, in my humble opinion, the only big issue is how weak the ending is. With such an exciting premise, I do think we could have done a little more and really went there with the execution. I feel like we could have just ramped it up a bit, made it a little more dark, I like stuff to be really morbid and depressive. I also wish the movie were as smart as it feels like it should be, or it's trying to be, but with vibes of like Black Mirror or something, like Black Twilight Zone vibes. I mean, it's creepy, it's horror tech vibes here, and it is the strong performances that really drives this one. His House from 2020, a psychological horror thriller about a refugee couple who, after escaping from a war-torn country, find themselves facing something much worse. This is streaming free on Netflix because it is a Netflix original. Now, I will say I don't like how like the treatment of the refugees, as I have said a nauseating number of times on this channel, and I think in this current video, I don't like any type of like racism. Leave them refugees alone, man. Lady trying to walk to the store. But His House gets so many things right. It is such a genuinely creepy and unnerving movie in moments. The performances are brilliant. I also like the type of horror story we get here, and it's my favorite type of horror story, one with a heart. His House shows the struggles of immigrants with a horror lens. The horror scares and sequences, I feel like, are very well executed. I remember watching this for the first time and just being so genuinely surprised at just really great jump scares in this and how they did all of the horror scenes. I will say I wish we got like more horror in this, if that makes sense. I'm trying to say it in a vague way. I love the supernatural elements here with this one, and this one is also a gloomy, bleak atmosphere, which I just love to be depressed. I love a really depressive, bleak feeling horror movie. I think His House is another one where people might love or hate the ending, but yo, why has this director not done any other horror since this? Like, where he at? Let me know which of these movies you plan on checking out, and let me know if you have already seen any of the movies on this list. Guys, are there any other horror movie recommendations or thriller or action that you would like me to do? If so, drop it down in the comments. Also, guys, when you finish this video, please make sure you go check out my recent uploads. If you have not, my 15 greatest Scream Kings of all time, my live that I did on horror icons I could or would not survive. I did a tier list ranking yesterday, so please check that out, as well as my KillerCon episode from Saturday talking about horror movies that actually scared you. My weekly horror live panel horror series KillerCon, we have Killer Conversation. We are live every Saturday 5 p.m. Central. Please show up and support that, as well as check out the join button and check out channel memberships, where we have weekly watch-alongs, priority reply to comments, exclusive videos and content that is only available for channel members. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, liking the videos, watching the videos, being subscribed, sending super chats, sending super thanks, sending thank you guys so much who sent support to the channel Cash App, King Nikki TV. I really appreciate it. I am currently trying to get new equipment and do a lot for the channel, and it just, you know, takes a lot in general. So I really appreciate you guys that sent that. Thank you so much. I love to do this and I love to talk movies, and I can only do it with your support. So thank you, and I will see you in the next one.
Goodbye.